Microphone check 1 2, testing 1 2 3. Testes. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Just hang tight. We'll give everybody an opportunity to enter into the chat room here. But if you are listening, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today we can talk about anything that you guys want to talk about: politics, true crime, unsolved cases that you've been following. What I have planned for you is to basically have you guys kind of pick out an unsolved case, one that we can all agree on. We can even do a poll, just so everybody's on the same page, and then we'll go ahead and use the victimology and criminology and see if we can find an angle on some of these unsolved cases. So if you guys are in the chat, go ahead and rate my audio if you could. From a 1 to 10, how do we sound? All right, good. Thank you, Jerry. What's up, Jill? All right, guys. Jill, Jerry, what cases should we look at? Typically, an unsolved case where, the victim was the verified target. Victim or victims. So what I mean by victimology and criminology, victimology is basically understanding the victim. Victimology focuses on the victim's life, relationships, most importantly, though, risk factors. This will provide insights into why they were targeted. It'll also help to narrow down suspects and motives. Criminology is understanding the offender. Now, it's going to provide frameworks to analyze the offender's behavior, motives, and patterns. And that helps investigators predict and identify the perpetrator. By combining victimology and criminology, investigators can create a comprehensive picture of the crime, linking the victim's profile to the offender's behavior. What's up, Sensei?
We do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. Here, on the street, in competition.
Yes, Sensei. What's going on, Boston? All right. For those of you just kind of joining us now, kind of stumbling in like a bunch of hobos, what we're looking to do is kind of pick certain unsolved cases, and we'll see if what we've been learning about victimology and criminology can be implemented if we can use what we've learned and apply it to our investigative techniques as armchair sleuths, armchair detectives. Maybe we can find a new angle. I feel like the goal is always to kind of generate a new tip or bring attention to the case while simultaneously providing a platform for those affected by these true crimes, right? Like, hey, I saw you were covering a case that was my friend. Um, I'd like to clear a few things up. Okay, well, let me provide my platform to you, and then provide you that opportunity. So, what I want from you guys right now in the chat is to find a cold case, a case that is unsolved, and we'll see if what we've learned about victimology and criminology, see if we can use it successfully in generating a tip, finding a new angle. Jared McCulloch. All right, so we'll start a poll. Give me your unsolved cases. Okay, so first on the list, Jared. Am I saying that right? McCulloch? I'm not familiar with this case. Any others? Okay, so what we're gonna look for is victim offender overlap. Going to identify connections between the victim's lifestyle and the offender's motives. For example, a victim involved in drug trafficking may have been targeted by a rival or an associate. Use victimology to determine if the victim was specifically targeted or a victim of opportunity. High risk versus low risk is what it boils down to. What's up, Eli? Had a good friend just murdered yesterday, stabbed at guess where? Westville Correctional Facility, Indiana. Holy. Sorry to hear about your friend, Eli. Yeah, that sounds scary. I feel like if I was doing hard time, I feel like how do you avoid not shanking somebody? You know what I mean? Like eventually somebody's going to try to press your buttons. Was there for vehicular manslaughter. Oh, that is awful. Went there for vehicular manslaughter, got a death penalty. What happened? He was driving drunk, killed somebody. Hey, Beth Gonzalez says Tiffany Daniels. Not sure I know that one either. All right, number 2. So we have Jared McCulloch. Correct me if I'm not pronouncing that right. And Tiffany Daniels. We need 2 more. Jerry says Jared disappeared going to meet up with his ex to visit his son. Truck found in rural area with his beloved dogs inside, doors opened. Okay. So you definitely would start with the victimology. So we want to determine, was he low risk or high risk? Was Jared low risk or high risk? How do we determine that? Low risk is going to point to something more personal or opportunistic. High risk may involve somebody, an abusive boyfriend. Maybe there's been reports of domestic violence, drug abuse, maybe a long rap sheet. What's going on, Jill? Scheduled to get out in 1 month. Oh, man. Not sure the detail. Shows how dangerous prison really is and why Richard Allen was held like he was. Absolutely. Yeah, they would have gotten to him in prison if they wouldn't have taken care of him, right? 24-hour observation. That was the whole point. And if you don't take him out of jail, he's probably more of a risk to himself than the inmates. Self-harm. What's up, Brian Solera? This is odd to even bring up, but I'm watching this live from my hospital bed. I just had a blood clot in my heart last night. Holy heck, Brian, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully they're taking good care of you, man. Speedy recovery to you, my friend. Yeah, the Sleuth crew. We're everywhere. Rain dancer Emily Pike was high risk. Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I don't know. I think she's somewhere in between. But yeah, definitely leaning more towards high risk. Especially involving her family. Yeah, you're right. Rain dancer, definitely high risk. And we've done the victimology and criminology on her case. If you guys want to go see that live stream, we've actually done that and tried to profile her killer. Amateur profile, of course, but as we learn, we seem to be getting very much more closer, very accurate with our profiling and our predictions and our hypotheses. What's up, CJK? Boston says, Brian, get well. All right, we need 2 more cases. We could do Emily Pike if you guys want to. But we do have a whole live stream dedicated for that. Christine is in the building. You know what? I might have sound effects on here now. Let's see. Yeah, I got all kinds. See, here's a heartbeat. We'll add that one. Explosion. We'll add that one. What else we got here? Siren. Okay, we'll add that one. We should call that one the Wambulance. This will be. Oh, I'm so scared. Oh no! Please, please don't. What else we got? Boo! Get him out of here. Drum roll, please. That's supposed to be an explosion. Rain Dancer says, it kind of baffles me that the place where they found her is right between her home and the children's home. Oh, absolutely. She knows her killer. Her killer knows her. That's the reason they killed her. They took advantage of her because sadistic psychopaths want vulnerable targets. Emily was extremely vulnerable, right? Her case is unsolved. There's nobody really fighting for any answers. She came from an area that was basically there's a turf war basically going on between two rival gangs there, and they're all family. You know, they're somehow related or connected through marriage. So it could be retaliation. But what I think it was somebody who knew her, promised her, right? The devil always comes in the image of an angel, right? Like this glowing image, a beautiful, where we get the whole wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, oh, I'll help you. All predators want to help you. They want to help you. They want to babysit your children. They want to be your friend. That's how they get close. And if they see that you're kind of like negligent or reckless, or maybe a broken home, or there's drugs involved, they'll target you. Or if they see a weak male figure in the home, they're not intimidated by him, they'll target your children. So yeah, she definitely knew her killer, promised her a ride home. I think she made it all the way to the reservation, I'm sure of it. Or at least as far as Globe, maybe a hotel. Had to be private. The whole purpose of dismembering is to put something that's usually human size, which is pretty big, right, to hide. It's hard to hide that, even for a smaller person. So in order to transport, because it's trash to these people, to a psychopath, it's just an object. I have to get rid of it. It's easier for me to carry this trash if I separate it. Yeah, so she knows her killer. The killer took advantage of her. She's a vulnerable victim. Um, didn't want to get in trouble, right? Now I can't bring you home because I sexually assaulted you and you're going to tell on me. So now I have to murder you and dismember you. And there's always an anchor point, right? Geo profiling, where this killer dumped Emily Pike, is telling us something, right? Typically, I see it's between 14 to 30 miles is the typical, what I've seen, and as far as anchor points from where the killer will travel to try to get rid of their victim's body, right? It's between 14 and 30 minutes driving, right? Driving long. Oh, this is far enough. This looks like the spot. And then they pull off, because they're lazy. And they really don't care. Oh, first location that I find that's about 30, we'll drive for 30 minutes. I don't know why. We've covered hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of cases by now. And we've seen this time and time again. I think you should do a case that isn't getting much coverage. Let's hear it. I don't know this Jared McCulloch case or Tiffany Daniels. We need 2 more cases. What's going on, Rain Dancer? I have that from my on-call ringtone. Here comes Rain Dancer. Here comes the rain. Grunge truck. Fingers and teeth. Yeah, I was watching Cold Case Files, the old school version. And they were talking about a case where they dismembered this young woman. They couldn't identify her because the killer literally ripped off her face. And for whatever reason, it immediately made me think of Hillary Clinton. I was like, I don't know why, but they had some forensic artists come in and they used her skeleton and figured out exactly what she looked like, made a photograph of her, a composite sketch, and they were able to ID her. But imagine that. Like, I'm so cold blooded, I'm going to rip your face off. It just gives you chills. Like, right, like in your shoulders and your neck. It's just like, what the? Ugh. Straight out of a horror movie. Okay, did I miss any? Did you guys give me any cases that I missed? Let me go back up. I'm sure I did. Retype them. I only have two right now: Jared McCulloch and Tiffany Daniels. Here's Boston. How about Nancy Lyons' case? What's that? Carthage, Indiana? All right, let's add that one. Yeah, these are all new to me, so we'll get an opportunity and it'll bring attention to all of us right now. That's already helpful, I think, in my opinion. Okay, Jared McCulloch, Tiffany Daniels, and Nancy Lyons. We need one more case. You guys are going to vote on these cases, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use what we've learned about victimology and criminology. We're going to see if we can apply it to our investigative techniques, our investigative, whatever you want to call it, our amateur investigation. Yeah, they need to test all the DNA from all of these old cold cases. They don't need to sit around. They just need to figure out a way to organize that and get it done. One by one. Boom. That'll be good for the economy. Set up an entire department that just focuses on comparing cold case DNA to genetic genealogy and whatever databases that law enforcement has. They should just do it one by one. Why is it that sometimes a little crown appears at my nickname? Is that some YouTube thingy? Yes. Let me see. Let me go to my YouTube. So it's rating you, basically saying, hey, right now you're top 3 as far as your participation in the chat. Okay, we need one more case. Jared McCulloch, Tiffany Daniels, Nancy Lyons. We need one more unsolved case. What's up, Barbara? This was kind of an impromptu. For those of you just joining right now, what we're doing is we're creating a list of unsolved cases. We're going to vote on one of those cases to cover. And we're going to use what we've learned about victimology and criminology and see if we can apply what we've learned to our investigative techniques and implement it. Maybe we can find a new angle. I feel like the goal is always to generate a new tip. And while you're doing that, doing our whole amateur sleuth thing, we're also providing or bringing attention to the case, right? At the very least. Let's see. Brian Solera says Suzanne Morphew. That's a good one. We've covered that case. And that is yet to be solved. But I mean, we pretty much know who did that. Yeah, let's look for something a little more less high profile. Brian. They got a suspect going through trial. I think we kind of know who's responsible for that. Let's see what else we got. Timmy D's. Okay, Timmy D's it is. Plus, if we end up voting for Timmy D's, Barbara, you might be able to provide a lot of the information as far as the victimology. And that'll make things easy as far as that part of it. We won't have to go hunting for all this information. You can just kind of provide it to us. Because remember, the goal is to assess whether or not high risk, low risk. Low risk most likely means that the perpetrator is known to the victim or is some type of an opportunistic event. All right, if you guys could vote on the poll now. We're at the 27-minute mark. We will close it down. I say, we'll say the 32-minute mark. We'll shut down that poll. All right. Looks like we have 9 votes. 20 people are in the chat, but there's only 10 votes. So right now it is overwhelming for Timmy D's. All right. Make sure you guys cast your vote. 21 are watching and only 11 have voted. Do it now. Do it. All right, Rain Dancer, Google everything about it, about the case. All right, Barbara. So it looks like we're going to be looking into Timmy's case. Let me see if this is accurate here. Timothy D's 25 or 26? Fredericktown. Is that right? Okay, so he was 25 when he went missing. All right, let's close this poll down. I think we've seen enough. All right, so let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So we have the case that we're going to be looking into, right? Let's see. All right, so this is where we're going to start. We're going to review the case. We're going to remain objective. We're going to understand the case's foundation and identify gaps. So we're going to collect and organize all existing case materials. We're going to lean on Barbara for that. Crime scene forensic evidence and timelines. Identify inconsistencies, missing information, or unexplored leads. Uninterviewed witnesses, untested evidence. And then we'll try to create a case summary, a victim profile, crime scene details, suspects, and initial theories. So let's go back to. So I just pulled up a basic search of the case. Let me know if I have any of this wrong, Barbara. So Timmy Dees, 25 years old, resident of Fredericktown, Missouri, disappeared under suspicious circumstances on February 28, 2022. His case has drawn significant attention due to a frantic 911 call he made shortly before vanishing, an inconclusive autopsy, and allegations of investigative mishandling by local authorities. Despite his body being discovered months later, the case remains officially unsolved as of September 25th, with his mother, Barbara Hall, actively advocating for it to be reopened. It is part of a cluster of mysterious deaths, disappearances in Madison County, Missouri, raising concerns about potential cover-ups or systemic issues in the local justice system. Okay, so this case exemplifies how victimology and criminology can be applied to cold cases. So let's go back up to exactly what victimology is, and I think we're going to start with the timeline. And hopefully Barbara correct us anytime we get any of this wrong, or if you want to interject. Okay, there's the email. Thank you, Sensei. And we together, Barbara. Email me. So we'll learn a lot today, and this will be a good starting point. All right. Okay, so let's gather detailed information about the victim's demographics. We have his age, 25, gender male. What did he do, Barbara? What was his occupation? What was Timmy's occupation? So we want to know about his occupation and his lifestyle. What were his habits, his routines, his hobbies, social connections, his family, his close family and friends, and his enemies as well. So that's what we're looking for. He's 25 years old, male. We need the occupation, habits, routines, hobbies, any social connections, family, friends, or enemies. He was a rigger for local Union 6. Okay. Okay, so from a quick little search here, it says Local Union 6 refers to the plumbers and pipe fitters. Local 6 is in Rochester, Minnesota. Is this correct? I'm not sure how accurate that is. All right, Barbara, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see where the victimology and the criminology take us first. And if this individual fits in there, there's more, that's going to be even more confirmation. And maybe it'll give us an idea where to look for something you can use as evidence. Another angle. Missouri, okay. Oh, Ruger. Local 6. Okay, when you say he put concerts together, was he a promoter or did he actually build, the arena to put on the show? Like, what does that mean? He put concerts together. What's up, Frank? Rigger? Oh, like he rigs. He gets it rigged. Stagehands. Okay, local 6 stagehands. Gotcha. Riggers, local 136 or IATSE, local 6 stagehands. All right, let's take a look. Labor organization representing professional technicians providing services for the entertainment, trade show, and convention industries. Fucking Catalina wine mixer. I think that's it, right? He built arenas, brought the motors up and top for concerts, spotlights, stuff like that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, now let's assess risk factors. Well, before we do that, we have his occupation. Tell me a little bit about his habits, routines, and his hobbies. Okay, 25 years old, 25, male, who built arenas for concerts. So I'm looking at the website here. Stagehands, I think, is what it's referred to, right? Labor organization representing professional technicians, providing service for the entertainment, trade show, and convention industries, including carpentry, lighting, audio, video, rigging, and production coordination. ETCP certified. And that is Stagehands, Local 6, St. Louis. So, what about habits, routines, hobbies? let's see. Also, social connections. Okay, so I'm going to read on here. Let's go to the timeline. So February 28th, 2022 is the date of the disappearance. Dees was in Fredericktown, a small town in southeast Missouri. He made a 911 call around evening, reporting that a friend was threatening him with violence. Now remember, this possibly could be a sign of mental illness too. So you don't want to jump the gun. Threatening him with violence. Could be psychosis, maybe something induced it. You never know. It's very strange. He's right in that age, 25 to 35. That's typically right around when you get affected by something like that. So, although I'm not saying that's it, I just wouldn't jump right to the friend. The call was cut short, and Dees was never seen alive again. He was reported missing on March 2nd, 2022, after family members, including his mother, couldn't locate him. Dees has been staying with friends or acquaintances in the area and was known to struggle with mental health issues and addiction. See, even before I knew that, right there, I saw a pattern. Not jumping to any conclusions, no bias, just something that I pointed out. And then, uh, hold on, I got a scratch in my throat. Might be my morning coffee. All right, let's go to the chat and see if Barb's there. Barbara, Timmy was grieving his brother. His brother just passed. Sorry to hear that, Barbara. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, that can definitely do some things to you as far as mental health. Yep, right at that age, 25. But let's learn a little bit more. So I'm going to go off the official narrative here, and then Barbara, you just correct me or steer me in the right direction as we go on. Okay, so it says here, Dees has been staying with friends or acquaintances in the area and was known to struggle with mental health issues and addiction. What is this? What's the addiction about? Could he have been targeted for whatever reason? So this to me is putting him in a high risk category, if it's true. So that's February 28th, the day of the disappearance. The year was 2022. All right, that brings us between March and July of 2022, the search efforts. Very sorry to ask that, but what is the official cause of death? Barbara says undetermined. Family and community searches intensified between March and July of 2022. Dee's mother, Barbara Hall, who had already lost another son, Michael, to an overdose less than a year prior, publicly pleaded for information. Police questioned several of Dee's friends and were with him that night. Okay. So police questioned several of Dee's friends who were with him that night, but all were released without charges. Okay. So I just put friends with a big question mark. Barbara says Timmy was missing for 5 months after he made a 911 call saying his friend was threatening him, and he was found 5 months later, 184 yards on the judge's property. Well, that's interesting. Do we have the 911 call, Barbara? Is that publicly accessible? I would like to hear that. You know, I want to look for tone of voice. Just kind of hear if he sounds frantic, paranoid, or just simply upset. Doodlebug, welcome in. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. It was not an accident. He only had one friend there, and his friend's giving me 10 different stories. That's a telltale sign of a liar. There's no reason for the story to change. Sometimes parts of a story are, mistakenly provided incorrectly. Oh, I said the car was red. Now that I look back, it was actually blue. But the timeline, everything else checks out. Or I got this part wrong. I told you it was 12:30, when actually it was more like probably like 1:30. They're saying 911 call got struck by lightning. What the? Have done the sunshine law request 2 different occasions. Lightning has struck. It's insane. Let's see if they have the 911 call here. 911 call. Yeah, I don't see it. They said lightning struck the call center, and they do not have the call. Then how did the officer know where to go? Yeah, they have to have the call. Is there a transcript? Is there a testimony from the 911 dispatcher? What did she say? Dang, that's got to be extremely frustrating, Barbara. I'm sorry. Man, because that would have been a big piece of information to kind of get an idea. Because we all remember Shannon Gilbert's 911 call. You can hear the terror in her voice. That's what we're doing right now. So we're on the timeline as we speak. Okay, so he's with his friends. Apparently, they all have 10 different stories. Hall reported that investigators seemed dismissive, and one friend later claimed Dees had run off and started a new life, which she rejected. July 21st, 2022, discovery of Dee's body. Dee's remains were found in a rural, wooded area of Madison County, approximately 20 to 30 miles from Fredericktown. The location was near a property linked to a local judge, fueling speculation. Yeah, what the hell is that? Which judge is this? That might help with the geo profiling. Like, why would he go? Does he have a history with the judge? Maybe the judge helped him in the past and he was paranoid and he ran there for help. Is that possible? Yeah, you guys keep adding on to this, and Barbara's going to correct us as we go. The police would not even look for him for 5 months. See, this is the part that drives me crazy, Barbara. And our hands are tied. I always say this: if I had the means and the money to back it up, we would have a huge organization just built, just to mobilize for cases like this. Because unfortunately, we spent an entire year. I did this whole segment. It was called True Crime in the Morning. All of these were unknown cases that have been swept under the rug because either they were known to be drug addicts or had maybe some kind of a criminal history. So law enforcement just always says things like, oh, well, we were expecting this, or they had it coming, or, we're not going to give all our resources to somebody who led a high risk lifestyle. So we spent an entire year pretty much covering those types of cases, and they were endless. Endless. Unknown cases. Nobody wanted to watch these videos. Nobody was looking up except the family. The family was extremely grateful. And when you begin communicating with the family members behind the scenes, you hear about this entire drug community, like an underbelly in these small town communities. And oftentimes law enforcement is connected. Like some of them are crooked cops taking money from them, not expecting there to be some type of high profile case. Bringing attention, kind of like Delphi, right? They weren't ready for any of that shit. Nobody would have ever expected that to blow up the way it did. But there was just something so eerie about it, and we still don't know. Really, we still don't have the answers with Delphi. I have papers saying that he said my friend is threatening me, but not the video. There's a lot to this case. I was just about to say about a transcript for the 911 call. Yeah, I wonder if that exists. Probably not. Wonder if somebody else put a FOIA in and they could get lucky. Well, according to Barbara, it doesn't exist. The there was a lightning strike. Fried the circuit. Judge Robert Fulton. Let's see who this guy is. What do we know about him, Barbara? Not saying he's involved or anything, but we gotta try to understand, was there a connection to this judge? No history with the judge, but I've been there. They're doing a documentary, and there was drug houses up and down the whole street, and nobody's doing anything about it. See, that's what I'm talking about. They could be involved. Maybe there was a connection that we don't know about to the judge, right? We don't know. Let's find out. Judge Robert Fulton. Is it Robin? There it is. Robert Fulton. Senior Judge Robert Fulton rules on case. Law enforcement said the phone went down a creek. He was on camera at 1:30 in the morning, fine. and well with his friend at 4:40 in the morning. He made the 911 call. Mr. Steve from True Crime Web has found new evidence. We gave it to the prosecutor and the new sheriff, and now they won't answer the phone. Yeah, that's suspicious. Doodlebug says when officers arrived, he arrested a man in the yard at a friend's house, but never tried to confirm that Timmy was okay. The guy had a warrant, is why he was arrested. What the hell was he doing there? Not even the friend who was telling 10 stories. Didn't even know that the phone call was saying his friend was threatening him. They went by what his friend said. Timmy was high and paranoid and running. I mean, that could be true, Barbara. That could be true. Let's keep looking. Call log shows no call from the officer to see if he is okay. Why didn't he check up on him? And also, his friend never once messaged him with that night, even with him missing. And paranoid, but I have several documents where his friend has changed his story. Where did the story change? Where are the inconsistencies and where are the gaps? That's what we're looking for, gaps. There was a couple of lightning strikes on different days when I asked for the information, and they tell me lightning strikes. How convenient. I don't believe law enforcement was involved, but for some reason they're hiding it. I was told that the friend was an informant. I mean, do you remember the recent killing of a judge by a sheriff? Come to find out they were in all this involved in all this corrupt activity. I mean, I wouldn't put it past it. And maybe Tommy somehow was connected to it. If he's messing around with drugs and these local judges, law enforcement are taking money off the top, allowing these people to operate there, knowing that they're not going to draw any attention from the FBI or some big city internal affairs or something like that. Maybe he got involved somehow like that. What's up, Anna? Barbara recently posted some interesting conversations with a POI on her channel, Timmy's Legacy. On Barb's channel, Timmy's Legacy, there are jail calls. Jail calls. Yes, that reminds me of the same thing I've been going through. Yeah, that's a very strange case. All right, let's continue on here. Okay, so July 21st, 2022. So let's start from the beginning. February 28th, he disappeared. March through July was the search efforts. That brings us to July 21st, 2022, when they discovered his body. These remains were found in a rural, wooded area off Madison County, approximately 20 to 30 miles from Fredericktown. Maybe we can pull that up on Google Maps. Okay, so I have Fredericktown up. Barbara, tell me where to go. Okay, wooded area of Madison County, approximately 20 to 30 miles from Fredericktown. So did you see there? There's that magic number, 30. 30 miles, right? I'm going to drive 15 minutes. I'm going to drive I've been driving for 30 minutes. This is far enough. So 20 to 30 miles from Fredericktown. The location was near a property linked to a local judge. Village Creek Road. Okay. Okay. So I do see a few different wooded areas here. So we're going to need this for the criminology portion. Might even be able to do a little geoprofiling. Barbara, why did his friend change his story 10 times and never looked for Timmy? Yeah, I mean, that's a telltale sign of a liar. Anytime you see somebody changing their story significantly, it's because they're lying. They're realizing that they've dug themselves in a hole. So they're going to change the story like, oh, it just slipped my mind. Or this is why I lied, right? They have a lie for the lie. So Doodlebug says Village Creek Road. That's where we're at now. What did the friend say? Which direction Timmy was running? So if I had to guess, it would be in this wooded area here. Either here or there, near the creek. Or the crick, depending on where you're from. His body was 184 yards from his friend's home. So his friend must have lived somewhere right here. So if he's all paranoid, maybe drug-induced psychosis, he may have wanted to get away. When you're under that, you kind of feel contagious. You want to get out of there. You want to be alone. You want to start over. Shed, you feel like you want to shed your skin like a snake. Start fresh. So if he ran through here, I'm assuming the judge might live somewhere over here. Maybe in one of these nicer homes. If that's the case, that definitely fits more with psychosis. What was the weather? Has a bridge with a dry creek. Bridge with a dry creek. Now let's see here. When Timmy was found, his tooth was knocked out at the scene. The pictures I got from the corner of the tooth is back in his mouth. So there could be a cover up, right? He could be back here. The judge mistakes him as a prowler, not somebody suffering from a medical condition. Hits him, maybe kills him, and then the law enforcement covers it up. Just let me know if I'm close, if I'm looking in the right area. Has a bridge with a dry creek. That dry creek is where where he was found. That creek doesn't look dry. This one kind of does. That's a culvert, not a bridge. That's not dry. Yeah, maybe you guys can help me out a little bit. Unless it's closer to the actual crime scene. Yes, by the storage units. Storage units. Small Wonders Daycare. All right, just tell me if it's north of this arrow, south of this arrow, east or west of this arrow. Because I believe these are the storage units, right? But I don't see a bridge. Is this the bridge? Yeah, but also if you're running through the woods and you're for whatever reason you're paranoid, you could trip, you could fall. You could run into strangers who might perceive you as a threat. You could run into a tree, you could slip and fall in a pothole. But it being at 4 a.m., I don't know. I don't know how dark it would have been out at that time. So near, I have to send you an email. There's so much more to this. Yeah, we should get together, Barb. Let me know when you have some free time tomorrow, and I'll check with my schedule and see what we can get. That way, I can just let you talk. And if you want to bring anybody else on with you to help you kind of articulate, that's totally cool too. But the reason I want to know exactly where he was found, where his friend was, where the judge is, that's the only way we're really going to be able to do the criminology portion of this and the geoprofiling. So these, to me, when you say storage units, is what I believe you're referring to. These look like storage units to me. Yeah, and if anybody has anything helpful on the case, let me know. Okay, so I think we're close. I don't know if this is the right wooded area. Maybe we'll just zoom out and we'll call it right here. Sorry, I'm just looking something up. I didn't mean to go quiet on you guys. Oh, no, that's not what I meant to do. Fuck. Fucking fat fingers. Okay, let's see. 27 Christian Court, Fredericktown. All right, there we go. Okay, so I mean, here's a much larger wooded area. But apparently that's not it. But that's where the judge was coming up as his address. Okay, so Cadaver Dogs actually got a hit here at the storage. Scent dogs. Okay, the location was near a property linked to a local judge, fueling speculation. The body was decomposed, complicating analysis. So that must be the undetermined part, because they waited forever to find the body. That's definitely negligence right there, in my opinion. Don't attribute to corruption what could easily be attributed to ignorance, right? Don't attribute to malice what could easily be attributed to ignorance or incompetency. An autopsy performed by the Missouri Highway Patrol was inconclusive regarding the cause of death. No clear signs of trauma, foul play, or suicide were definitively established. All right, let's move into the post-discovery investigation, 2022 through 2023. The Missouri Highway Patrol took over, but closed the case, classifying it as undetermined, possibly suicide or accidental overdose. Hall filed public records request and accused detectives of predetermining the cause of death without thorough investigation. They do this. They do this often. Interviews with the persons of interest, friends present during the 911 call, were scrutinized in podcasts like The Lawless Files, which highlighted inconsistencies such as the proximity of the body to the 911 call site. Cadaver dogs. I have a friend who is the chief of the fire department in a nearby town. I just wanted to point out that you can search for someone missing or someone who you think is already dead. And yes, the term man trailer is used here. So is this the field right here? Because when I look up the judge, he like lives way over here somewhere. He like lives by this lake. But it also says property. So does he own property over here? See where it says Highway 00? Yes, I see it. So we got Highway 00 right here. We have the storage units over here. Village Creek Road. Are we going north? You're welcome to play anything I have. I only bring awareness. Timmy's shoes were off. Tell us about that. That's consistent with psychosis as well. So we got Village Creek Road storage units where apparently cadaver dogs picked up a scent. And then I have the highway that you're referring to. All right, let's continue on here. Let's move over to finish the timeline here. Ongoing advocacy. On the 2-year anniversary, July 21st, 2024, Hall renewed calls for justice, noting Madison County's pattern of unsolved cases, suicides, missing persons like Durante Martin. In October of 2024, she joined advocates at the Missouri State Capitol in Jefferson City to demand reopenings. Supported by podcasters Sonova Cantrell, as of early 2025, online discussions and media, for instance, a Riverfront Times article described a cluster of suspicious deaths in the area, with public blame directed at the local sheriff's office. All right. So let me look. Basically, I kind of highlighted all of the key evidence here. So the 911 call. This is the strongest indicator of foul play. Dees explicitly named a threatening friend, suggesting an interpersonal conflict. Transcripts or recordings, if released, could reveal the friend's identity and motive. And then we have the autopsy and forensics. Inconclusive results. No gunshot wounds, no stabbing wounds, or obvious trauma was reported. Toxicology might show drugs aligning with Dee's history, but without definitive proof, it leaves room for homicide. For example, overdose induced by another party. You guys might have known that as being referred to as a hot dose, right? Christina McClurkin case. No DNA or fingerprints from suspects have been publicly linked. Let's talk about the persons of interest. Several friends, Barbara stated, were questioned but cleared. One who drove Dees to Fredericktown reportedly changed his appearance post-disappearance and gave evasive answers to Hall. The body's location near a judge's property has sparked conspiracy theories about influence or cover-up. Madison County has seen multiple unsolved cases, including suicides and disappearances, leading to accusations of investigative bias or incompetence. Okay, so how do we apply victimology and criminology to Dee's case? Was clean, and then the other shoe was down where he was found. That could also be a sign of being dragged. Somebody holding you in front of them and just walking backwards with your heels dragging. That might pull your shoes off. Right there at Johnson 51 is where the bridge is. Johnson Street, right here. Oh, is this the bridge you're referring to? Okay, so this must be the wooded area then on this side. Barbara says, yes, I have the coroner's report, but the pictures they showed me in that report don't match the pictures of the scene. Okay, so he wasn't found near the home, just on the property. So he may have ran in this direction into this wooded area. How can he run then if he got a hot dose? Well, he could have ran, right? Let's say he has the dose on him, takes off running. I'm not saying that's what it is. Honestly, everything I'm saying is pointing to psychosis, but that's just everything on the surface. I look forward to speaking with you in more detail about it. That he was drugged. Yeah. So what happens is oftentimes in these types of cases, you have drug induced psychosis. That could cause him to become paranoid, thinking that his friends are trying to kill him, wanting to separate from what he's perceives as a civilization, wants to get away, run away. And lots of times they take off their clothing and it starts with their shoes. In most confirmed cases of psychosis, you always see the victim or the individual will undress, show signs of erratic behavior, and wanting to like go into the wilderness away from where the people have kind of um, settled in, like further away from town, get away from the city, get away from the town, get away from the people. Doodlebug. In one call, the friend states that Timmy was Snapchatting his items, and he felt he was being robbed. Hmm. And so if he's partying over here, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, partying, even the time tells us something. Um, could have just been hanging out and then had a bad dose or had too much or had a bad reaction. How would he know that if he didn't see it? Snapchats are gone fast. He also states he thought the neighbors called law enforcement due to screaming because they are older. Why would there be screaming in his yard if he was urinating? Let me read that again. How would he know that if he didn't see it? He also states he thought the neighbors called law enforcement due to screaming. Can you be a little bit more clear about the screaming? What are you referring to? What's the screaming all about? Who's doing the screaming? And where's that information coming from? Barbara, the friend's timeline doesn't make any sense. He said Timmy went out to take a pee at 2 o'clock in the morning and never came back. Take a pee. Two to four, we have no witnesses anymore. There's your gap from 2 to 4. All right. Well, at least we've identified the gap. Okay. Applying victimology and criminology. Okay, background and risk factors. Dees was a low to moderate risk victim. Young male with addiction and mental health struggles, making him vulnerable to exploitation by acquaintances. His routines involved staying with friends in Fredericktown, increasing exposure to conflicts, for instance, drug-related disputes. Family interviews reveal he was grieving his brother's death and had a tattoo in tribute, indicating emotional vulnerability that could have been exploited. So, most times there's a recipe for this kind of a disaster. You start mixing trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and they start medicating with psychotropic or drugs that could cause psychosis. Sometimes you don't need a recipe, you just need one ingredient. But the more ingredients that you have, the more likely it could happen. Map D's social network. Focus on the named friend from the 911 call and others present that night. Do we know who that is? Who's the friend? Who is the friend? He says Timmy went outside to urinate and then he was gone. Caleb. Okay, Caleb tells officers that he thought Timmy was outside screaming and the neighbors called. Okay, if the friends are involved, usually they're going to tell a half truth, right? They're going to leave out all of the bad stuff, like Richard Allen, right? I went on the trails, I walked out just halfway, just partially, not all the way, right? They're going to tell everything, but hey, I went out and I committed murder too, also, on top of everything I just told you. So if they are involved, that could be like a partial truth. He went outside to go to the restroom and was targeted. Barbara says his friend didn't even know he made the 911 call. He was saying that the neighbor did, but we know Timmy did, and his friend's denying it. Okay. So he says, I'm going to go out and use the restroom. But really, he's going out to make a 911 call. The bathroom bit was just a ruse. So maybe he goes out and makes the phone call and is discovered maybe right in the middle of it. Like, who are you talking to? Yeah, what kind of drugs were they doing? It's a good question, Rain Dancer. Caleb was Timmy's only friend there. Caleb, I think you meant. All the other people were Caleb's friends. The first one arrested was a cousin to Timmy that stopped to change a flat tire. How did that lead to screaming and law enforcement being called? Well, that's interesting. What caused the flat tire? Is there a road out here? Seems like you can drive out here. No, cousin to Caleb. Trevor Holland. Okay, so who was the friend that was named in the 911 call? Barbara. I think we need to focus in on who that is. So, who is the friend that was named from the 911 call and everyone present that night? Is there any debts? Any arguments? Most homicides involve known parties, especially in small communities. And have we reconstructed the 911 call timeline using cell data along with the witness statements? Did they do the digital forensics on Dee's phone? Social media could uncover threats or plans. Let's focus on the criminology. So that includes the offender profiling and crime scene analysis. The wooded disposal site suggests an organized offender who planned to hide the body. Post-mortem transport from Fredericktown. If it is a homicide, the inconclusive autopsy might indicate staging as a suicide overdose. Common and personal disputes. No overkill or ritualistic elements point to a pragmatic killer, possibly covering tracks quickly. What about the motive typology? Timmy said, "My friend is threatening me. I have the paperwork. Caleb was Timmy's only friend. His debit card was used 3 times and denied at 9:11 in the morning." No surveillance footage. Any CCTV footage from this interaction? I mean, you think the ATM would have some type of photograph. The debit card was found in his pocket when he was found in his wallet. Police wouldn't look for his phone. Motive could be the feeling robbed by Snapchats. That could lead to confrontation. Yeah, maybe he was right. Maybe he was being robbed. Okay, so motive and typology. Likely motives include drug related elimination, strain theory, resolving a debt or a threat or interpersonal rage from the 911 call. The offender profile, most likely a male, 20 to 30s, local to Madison County, with possible criminal history and drugs. Disorganized elements include the body not deeply buried, suggest impulsivity tied to the threat that Dee's reported. And where the debit card was used was at a C barn at 9:11 in the morning when I tried to get the surveillance footage from the lady at the gas station. She said she gave it to the chief. So they have the surveillance footage. Now, you should be able to get your hand. Well, no, it's an open investigation, so maybe not. You might want to go sit down and ask them for that, at least to see it. Oh, police, and they told me lightning struck that too. Oh, geez. I mean, it could be if they're set up on something that records continuously on a loop. Sometimes you have a recording where, like, every 4 to 5 minutes, it'll break into it's an individual owned video to protect itself from that. But it takes up a lot of memory. You need a lot of space. But if you just run a continuous loop, you can just stop it at the end of the day, and then you have the entire day on one file. But unfortunately, if you're in the middle of recording and something fries the system or shuts off the computer, it could just totally eliminate that footage. So I think that is possible, but it really depends on a few different factors. All right, let's look for some patterns. So what I think we should do is compare it to Madison County's other cases via VICAP. Similar suicides might indicate a serial offender or group involvement. Geographic profiling, the body's proximity to the call site and judge's property could indicate a local comfort zone, right? We like to call that our anchor point. You know, there could have been an altercation that resulted in a death and somebody panicked. You know, that could kind of explain the short anchor point for the dump site. Also, maybe trying to not alert others. If there's a bunch of other friends over here and Tommy walks outside, calls law enforcement, hey, you know, these guys are threatening me, they're stealing all my shit, whether he was paranoid or not, right? And then this guy follows behind him, like, what are you calling the cops? Blah, blah, get to a fight, punches him, boom, knocks his tooth out or loosens it. But he just dies instantly, falls down, and just passes away from that. Or maybe they're struggling, puts him in a headlock or something, you know. Has to cover it up. The lady at the gas station told me she gave it to the chief of police, but he says lightning struck it. Oh my goodness. See, that's not possible. Unless the power went out. So did lightning strike somewhere that caused the entire power to go out? That's different. Because I think that most CCTV cameras in in a place like a gas station is on a continual loop. I believe his friend had something to do with it because he would never help me look for Timmy. You don't look for something when you know where they are. Exactly. Right? He's thinking, well, I'm not going to go waste my time. Not to mention, they don't want to be around you. You know, they don't want you to analyze their behavior. So, you know, you're questioning them throughout the search. You know, So what happened that day? How you doing? How you handling this? Your friend and cousin going missing. They don't want you to observe their body language and the way they respond. Not all killers, assuming that they are the killer, can compartmentalize these types of things. Some people get really, I don't know, grief stricken, regret stricken. The power didn't go out. Every time I've asked for things, lightning keeps striking it down in that town. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. If you look for that, there is absolutely no record of lightning or storms in February that night. Okay, what about this theory then? Okay, Tommy's over here somewhere getting high, getting drunk, hanging out, paranoid about people stealing from him. Heads in this direction. Finds himself on this property. Right? The judge having too much to drink. Maybe one too many nightcaps. Here's somebody banging on the back of his home or walking through, one of his outbuildings here. So let's say Timmy is back here somewhere, and out comes the judge. Maybe something happened between him and the judge. Judge panics, calls the local sheriff, says, hey, we got one of these local troublemakers here. I thought he was trying to break into my home. I accidentally killed him. And then you have a cover-up. What did I say, Tommy or something? Yeah, I always do that shit. Timmy D's. Sorry about that. All right, guys. Anything else you want to add? This will be our 5-minute warning. So we'll finish with this, with practical steps to reopen and solve this case. So number 1, you need to reassess evidence. Retest remains for advanced tox screen or DNA. Familial searching via CODIS. Analyze 911 audio for background clues if possible. Sounds like this stuff's been destroyed. Maybe there's a way it's been, where that it's been backed up. Use psychological tactics on friends. Leverage change behaviors. Right? Like the haircut to probe inconsistencies. And Barbara, your advocacy could yield new witnesses. Loyalties do change over time. Number 3, public and tech engagement. Renew media pushes. Like the Lawless Files. Try to involve external agencies. Try to get the FBI cold case unit involved. That way you can avoid that local bias. If you can get enough pressure going, Barbara, that advocacy could pressure state level intervention. It has in the past. Okay, so as of September 2025, the case is closed but under public scrutiny with no arrests. Barbara Hall continues fighting, stating she'll never stop for justice. If you have tips, contact the Missouri Highway Patrol at 573-751-3322. As a matter of fact, just call them anyway. Give them a call and ask them about the progress and what they have as far as a media release and where they are on the case. So right now, that's what I want all of you to do who are willing to. Right? Contact the Missouri Highway Patrol at 573-751-3322. and ask them where they are on the case. Tell them you need them to reopen the investigation. Or even better yet, call your local FBI office and provide them the details and see if they can get involved. Yeah, that's known to happen too. You know, people who are drunk, high, just accidentally start knocking on the wrong door or walk into the wrong house. It happens actually quite often, probably a dozen times a year, I'm assuming. I understand about the Snapchat, but how would his friend know anything about the Snapchat unless he had Timmy's phone? He could have been friends with him on Snapchat, Barbara. So if he's, doing stuff on Snapchat, he would be able to see that if he's friends with him. So while he's posting stuff to Snapchat, it's popping up on his feed as well because they're friends. Yeah, tell him to reopen it. Call that number and tell him to reopen the case. Or you're calling the FBI. Don Spain. That's a good question. Good to see you, Don. See, now we're getting deep into the victimology. Or now this would be considered the criminology, right? So does the judge possibly have a son the same age? What's up, Fishy? That's a good question, Don. I knew something was wrong immediately because Timmy talked to me daily after his brother passed. What'd you guys talk about? Was there anything that kind of stood out? Cindy, what up? Before this happened, did he say anything to you? Any strange comments that kind of stood out? Where you thought, oh, well, that's odd. Like he's just acting odd or he seems afraid. Or maybe even schizophrenic. All right, Barbara, make sure you email me. Let's get something scheduled. I'd be open to doing something tomorrow. Just let me know. And that way we could just kind of pull you up on the screen and let you kind of provide all the information and take us down this rabbit hole of this case and where you think it's at and what you think we can do to help. Email me at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. No rush. I'll just look forward to it, okay? All right, you guys hang in there. Cindy, thank you so much for all your support. Thanks for the flex. Looking good. It's quite the bicep you got there. If you're part of the replay crew, you know exactly what to do. Leave a comment. We'll get back to you. Thank you so much, Cindy, for the super chat. Thank you for sponsoring this live stream. And that was us trying to implement what we've learned about victimology and criminology on a real case. And we'll continue. We'll continue to work on it. And hopefully me and Barbara will get together and we can bring some more attention to this case for Timmy. All right, guys, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And hopefully I'll see you a little bit later when I can find some more time. And take care of yourselves. Peace.